You're ready to buy a home. You've saved, planned, and searched. But what if the place you're dreaming of is actually a financial nightmare? In 2025, buying a home isn't just about location or price, it's about risk. Climate disasters, insurance collapses, property tax spikes, and crashing markets are turning once desirable states into danger zones for homeowners. We're not just talking about bad deals, we're talking about lifelong regret. In this video, we reveal the top 10 U.S. states where you should not buy property right now. These aren't guesses. They're backed by real data, hard numbers, and trends too big to ignore. If you're thinking about buying, relocating, or investing in real estate, you need to watch this before signing anything. Because the biggest home buying mistake in 2025 might be where you choose, not what you choose. Let's dive in. Number 10, South Carolina. South Carolina has long been one of the South's most desirable destinations. From the historic charm of Charleston to the relaxing beaches of Hilton Head, it's no surprise that people across the country have flocked here in search of a slower, sunnier lifestyle. But in 2025, this picturesque state is hiding serious risks that could turn your home purchase into a long-term regret. Let's start with insurance, because in South Carolina, it's becoming a financial monster. The average homeowner's insurance premium now exceeds $3,000 per year, and in coastal areas, that number can double. Why? Because South Carolina sits in the crosshairs of climate chaos. Rising sea levels, more frequent hurricanes, storm surges, and coastal flooding have turned the low country into a high-risk zone for insurers. Some major insurance companies are scaling back or pulling out entirely, leaving buyers scrambling to find coverage. And even when insurance is available, the deductibles are massive, and the exclusions often leave homeowners exposed. Now layer in the housing market. In popular areas, buyers are still paying premium prices, often overpaying for properties located squarely in flood-prone zones. Meanwhile, banks are quietly tightening lending standards in high-risk zip codes, especially along the coast. That means fewer financing options, longer approval processes, and more buyers getting denied loans altogether. It's the kind of shift that signals trouble ahead. Ask yourself, would you be okay with paying more in insurance than in property taxes and HOA fees combined? Would you sign a 30-year mortgage on a home where one major storm could wipe out its value? Or worse, your entire savings? South Carolina may look like a dream on the surface, but in 2025, it comes with too many strings attached. The charm is real, but so is the risk. That's why South Carolina kicks off our list of the 10 worst states to buy property in this year. Number 9, Arizona. Not long ago, Arizona was the go-to destination for anyone chasing sunshine, affordability, and wide-open space. Retirees, remote workers, and out-of-state investors saw Phoenix, Tucson, and their suburbs as golden opportunities to buy big and spend less. But in 2025, that dream is beginning to dry up. Literally. Let's talk about climate first. Arizona now experiences over 30 days each year with temperatures exceeding 110 degrees Fahrenheit, and experts warn that's only getting worse. The intense heat isn't just uncomfortable, it's dangerous, especially for the elderly and families with children. Then there's the wildfire threat. Rural and even some suburban areas are seeing growing evacuation risks, with homes perched near dry brush zones that can ignite in an instant. But the elephant in the room? Water. Water scarcity in Arizona is no longer a future concern. It's a right-now crisis. Entire neighborhoods near Phoenix and Scottsdale are facing water restrictions, shrinking groundwater reserves, and long-term uncertainty about supply. Some developers have even halted projects due to a lack of guaranteed water access. Now consider the insurance picture. Premiums have surged in the past 18 months, and in high-risk zones, some homeowners have seen their rates double. Others have been dropped entirely by insurers, forcing them into costly state-backed plans or going without protection altogether. So here's the hard question. What good is a cheap house if you can't water your lawn or insure it? Arizona's affordability edge is being eroded by climate volatility, infrastructure strain, and a real estate market that's starting to feel increasingly fragile. Yes, the skies are blue and the sunsets are magical, but you can't pay your mortgage with scenery. What once felt like an oasis is starting to look like a mirage. That's why Arizona lands at number 9 on our list of the most dangerous states to buy property in 2025. Number 8, Colorado. Colorado has long been seen as a dream state, and for good reason. With its snow-capped mountains, booming tech hubs, and a culture of wellness and adventure, it's no surprise people from across the country flocked here during the post-pandemic housing rush. But in 2025, that picture-perfect lifestyle comes at a cost many buyers simply can't afford or ignore. Let's start with home prices. In cities like Denver and Boulder, the median home price has surpassed $650,000, pricing out many first-time buyers and middle-class families. But the bigger issue? That value may not last. Colorado is increasingly vulnerable to climate risks, especially wildfires and water shortages. More than 50% of the state is now considered high or extreme wildfire risk. Entire communities have faced evacuation orders in recent years, and insurance companies are taking note. Premiums have skyrocketed, up 35% in just the past 2 years, and more insurers are starting to redline entire regions, declaring them too risky to cover. That means higher out-of-pocket costs, fewer insurance options, and serious headaches for mortgage approval. And then there's the water crisis. The Colorado River is shrinking, restrictions are being imposed, and land use laws are tightening, especially around new developments in rural areas. For buyers, that translates to stricter zoning, lower resale potential, and growing uncertainty about long-term livability. Even those who can afford to buy are asking, is it still worth it? Because in 2025, Colorado's postcard beauty hides a financial pressure cooker. It's not just about whether you can afford to buy, it's whether you can afford to stay. Are you investing in a home or gambling on a landscape that's changing faster than anyone expected? Number 7, Louisiana. Louisiana is a state with a soul. From the jazz-filled streets of New Orleans to the moss-draped bayous of the South, it's a place that oozes culture, flavor, and history. But in 2025, buying property here could mean stepping into a financial storm that's already well underway. Let's start with the obvious. Climate risk. Louisiana ranks among the most climate-vulnerable states in the U.S. Coastal erosion. Stronger hurricanes, flash floods, and rising sea levels have devastated entire communities over the past decade. And it's not just the coast. Even inland areas are getting hit with heavy rain events that flood neighborhoods previously considered safe. The result? Homeowners' insurance premiums now average over $4,000 per year, and many residents are being pushed into the state-run Louisiana Citizens Plan, which often costs more and covers less. Some homeowners are being told point blank, we can't insure you. But the financial pain doesn't stop there. With mounting risks and insurance gaps, many potential buyers are walking away, and that's putting downward pressure on home values, especially in flood-prone areas. Meanwhile, young families are leaving the state, especially in southern parishes where repeated storm damage has made rebuilding feel pointless. That population shift means fewer buyers, more vacancies, and slower appreciation. A dangerous mix for anyone hoping their home will build equity over time. And while Louisiana remains a beloved place to visit, tourism dollars don't protect property values when the neighborhood next door is half empty or underwater. Here's the bottom line. You can love a place deeply and still realize it's not a smart place to plant your roots right now. Because in Louisiana, the storms aren't just coming anymore. They're already here. And buying a home in the path of the next one could mean putting your financial future in the eye of the hurricane. Number 6, Illinois. Illinois may not be known for hurricanes or wildfires, but for homebuyers, it hides a very different kind of danger. One made of taxes, debt, and disappearing value. On the surface, Illinois offers everything you'd want in a home state. A world-class city like Chicago, charming small towns, decent home prices, and a strong Midwestern identity. But when you dig into the numbers, the story changes fast. Let's talk property taxes. Illinois has the second highest property tax rate in the entire country, averaging 2.23% of a home's value annually. That means for a $300,000 home, you could pay nearly $6,700 every year, just in taxes. And unlike mortgage payments, property taxes don't end in 30 years. They go on forever. Now add in Illinois' pension crisis. The state is facing billions in unfunded liabilities, and lawmakers are scrambling to fund it. Guess where the money's coming from? That's right, property owners. Residents are increasingly feeling the pinch through higher local levies, school taxes, and utility fees. Meanwhile, over 80,000 people left Illinois in a single year, part of a growing trend of outbound migration. As the tax base shrinks, the burden on remaining homeowners only grows heavier. And home values? In many parts of Chicago and throughout downstate regions, they're stagnating or even declining, meaning you're paying more, but building less equity. Investors are starting to pull back, and for families hoping to sell in a few years, the pool of willing buyers is drying up. It's a dangerous equation: high cost, low growth, and rising risk. So ask yourself, would you buy a home in a place where your taxes go up, but your property value goes down? In Illinois, you don't just buy a house. You inherit a financial burden that's been compounding for decades. And unless there's a dramatic turnaround, the smart money in 2025 is looking for an exit. Number 5, Texas. Texas has long sold itself as the land of opportunity: wide open skies, no income tax, and a booming job market. And for a while, that promise held true. Post-pandemic, cities like Austin, Dallas, and Houston saw explosive growth as people fled high-cost coastal states in search of affordability and freedom. But in 2025, the cracks in that narrative are showing, and for home buyers, the warning signs are hard to ignore. Let's start with infrastructure. Texas' population has outgrown its public systems. From overburdened electric grids to congested roads and overcrowded schools, many local governments are scrambling to keep up and passing the bill onto property owners through rising local taxes and utility costs. Next, consider climate volatility. Texas has always had extreme weather, but the intensity is getting worse. From devastating hurricanes along the Gulf Coast to tornadoes and record-breaking heat waves inland, insurance companies are raising red flags. Homeowners insurance premiums have soared above $4,000 per year, and in some high-risk zip codes, private insurers have pulled out entirely, leaving homeowners to rely on costly, limited state-run plans. Now add the housing market correction. In cities like Austin, home prices skyrocketed over 40% in just a few years, but now they're cooling fast. Buyers who purchased at the peak are seeing their home values drop, and some are already underwater on their mortgages. For new buyers, that creates a dilemma: enter a cooling market with rising costs and fragile equity, or wait it out and risk being priced out again. It's no longer just about everything's bigger in Texas. It's about whether the risks are now bigger than the rewards. Because while the Lone Star State still shines, its real estate market in 2025 feels more like a gamble than a guarantee. And sometimes the boldest move isn't charging ahead. It's knowing when to walk away. Number 4, Florida. Florida has always looked like the American dream in full color: palm trees, ocean breezes, and year-round sunshine. For decades, it was the ultimate destination for retirees, remote workers, and real estate investors alike. But in 2025, buying a home in the Sunshine State might come with more heat than you bargained for, and not the kind you find on the beach. Let's begin with the numbers. Florida now has the highest homeowners insurance premiums in the country, averaging nearly $5,000 per year, and in coastal areas like Miami-Dade or Lee County, those numbers often surpass $6,000. Why? Because Florida is ground zero for climate risk. Hurricanes are intensifying, flood zones are expanding, sea levels are rising, and insurers are hitting the panic button. Several major insurance providers, including State Farm and Farmers, have either pulled out of Florida completely or drastically reduced their coverage zones. Many Floridians are now forced into Citizens Property Insurance, the state-run last resort insurer, which comes with higher rates and less flexibility. But here's the kicker: it's not just about insurance. Overdevelopment in high-risk coastal zones is now putting entire neighborhoods at risk of being uninsurable, or worse, unlivable, in the near future. Even inland markets like Orlando and Tampa are feeling the effects. Between rising HOA fees, property taxes, and climate-driven price volatility, Florida's affordability is slipping fast. And while demand has historically propped up property values, population shifts and increasing climate migration are beginning to change the equation. So ask yourself, are you buying a home or betting on borrowed time? Florida is still beautiful, no question, but beauty fades when it's built on unstable ground. And in this market, one storm might not just flood your street, it could drown your investment. Number 3, New York. New York, the Empire State, has long been the crown jewel of American real estate, from the glittering skyline of Manhattan to the tree-lined suburbs of Westchester. Owning a home here was once seen as the ultimate status symbol. But in 2025, that symbol is starting to crack. And for many buyers, the numbers just don't add up anymore. Let's talk about price. In New York City, the median home price in Manhattan hovers around $1.2 million. And even in outer boroughs like Brooklyn or Queens, prices have surged well past what the average buyer can afford. But here's the twist. Those sky-high prices aren't guaranteed to hold. With the rise of remote work, middle-income earners are leaving and taking demand with them. Meanwhile, property taxes in the suburbs are downright punishing. In places like Nassau and Westchester counties, annual property tax bills can exceed $12,000, even on modest homes. Add to that high utility costs, maintenance on aging infrastructure, and insurance premiums that are slowly rising due to increased climate risk, and suddenly your dream home becomes a financial drain. And let's not forget population decline. Between 2020 and 2023, New York lost over 500,000 residents, many of them working families and retirees seeking more affordable pastures. That exodus means slower resale, less appreciation, and a shrinking buyer pool, especially outside of elite zip codes. Yes, New York still has cultural power, global prestige, and a pulse unlike anywhere else. But those things don't pay your mortgage, cover your tax bill, or guarantee your investment holds its value. So before you sign that dotted line, ask yourself this: are you buying a piece of history or stepping into a long-term liability? Because in New York real estate, glamour is easy to find. But stability, that's becoming the rarest luxury of all. Number 2, New Jersey. For decades, New Jersey has been marketed as the perfect middle ground, close enough to New York City for commuters, but far enough to enjoy suburban peace and lower living costs. But in 2025, that promise is rapidly unraveling, and for many homebuyers, the Garden State is turning into a financial trap. Let's start with the big one: property taxes. New Jersey has the highest property tax rate in the United States, averaging 2.47% of a home's value annually. That means a $500,000 home will cost you over $12,000 every single year in taxes, and that's before you factor in HOA fees, insurance, and local levies. And those taxes, they're going up. New Jersey is saddled with billions in pension debt and aging infrastructure, and the state needs to raise revenue somewhere. Guess who's paying? Meanwhile, home prices in many suburban counties have plateaued. Demand is cooling, particularly among younger buyers who are being priced out not just by the purchase cost, but by the long-term carrying costs of owning property in the state. Insurance premiums are also on the rise, especially in coastal areas vulnerable to flooding. Drainage systems are outdated, and more neighborhoods are being labeled as high-risk zones. And here's the worst part: appreciation is slowing. Buyers are discovering that equity gains are being eaten away by endless costs: taxes, repairs, insurance, and shrinking buyer interest. You're not building wealth, you're plugging financial leaks. New Jersey still offers good schools, proximity to major cities, and plenty of lifestyle perks. But those benefits come at a premium, and the math just doesn't make sense for the average homeowner anymore. So ask yourself, are you buying a home or locking yourself into one of the most expensive commitments in the country? Because in New Jersey, it's not just about what you pay to get in, it's about how much it costs to stay. Number 1, California. For decades, California has been the poster child of the American dream, a land of palm trees, tech empires, ocean views, and endless opportunity. But in 2025, that dream is colliding head-on with a brutal financial reality. Let's start with the obvious. Cost. The median home price in California is now $784,840, the second highest in the country. In cities like San Francisco and Santa Monica, that number skyrockets past $1.2 million. Even inland cities like Sacramento and Riverside are no longer affordable alternatives. But sky-high prices are just the beginning. California is being battered by climate risk from all sides. Wildfires, mudslides, floods, drought, and even earthquakes. And insurance companies are sounding the alarm. State Farm and Allstate have pulled out of California's homeowners market, refusing to issue new policies in many regions. That's left buyers scrambling and paying a fortune. In high-risk zones, annual premiums can top $6,000 to $9,000, if you can even get insured at all. Meanwhile, the cost of living continues to soar. Property taxes, utilities, fuel, groceries, making long-term affordability a major challenge even for high-income earners. Then comes the migration crisis. Over 500,000 people have left California in the past 3 years, many of them middle-class families and retirees seeking stability elsewhere. As more buyers leave than arrive, demand softens, resale timelines stretch, and property values in certain areas begin to wobble. So let's ask the hard question. Are you buying a lifestyle or a liability? Because in today's market, a $1 million view might come with no insurance, no equity growth, and no exit plan. California is still breathtaking, but in 2025, that beauty comes at a price few can truly afford or justify. And that's why it takes the #1 spot on our list of the worst states to buy a home this year. Buying a home is more than just a financial decision. It's a long-term commitment. And in 2025, the wrong zip code could cost you everything. From climate risk to skyrocketing insurance, some states carry risks too big to ignore. So before you sign the dotted line, ask yourself, are you buying security or stepping into a trap? If this video opened your eyes, hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Drop a comment. Which of these states surprised you the most? And remember, the best investment isn't just where you buy, it's what you avoid.